includes our director Amul sir is with us, and I request to Kulkarni sir, please introduce Kulkarni sir
Yes,
as a formality.
yes, it's my great pleasure to introduce my batchmate, Mr. Ashish Malwade. We were together and from 1998 to 2002, and we completed the B Farm together. He was with me, and we were enjoyed a lot that days. And as I was discussing earlier, he was interested to do his PG in pharmacology, but at that time there were very few seats for the PG in India, and we tried. We both were there in DY Patil in 2003, I think, to get the admission to Ashish in pharmacology MPharm, but he could not get it with donation also. Then he joined the MSc clinical trial from one of the Mumbai Institute, and he completed 1 year theoretical part from the Mumbai, and then as a trainee part, he joined to London, I think, and after that, he settled there itself. Now he is with Oxfordshire, UK, working with the Abbott as a consultant clinical trial. He is handling many projects, having more than 12 years experience in clinical trials. Now, we are very much fortunate with that Ashish is with us and to guide us regarding the clinical trial. Yes, welcome Ashish from Dattakala Shikshan Sanstha, from Dattakala College of Pharmacy, from Institute of Pharmaceutical Science and Research, from Anusaya Institute of Pharmacy. Welcome, 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 and start your session. We are much eager to listen from you. And Ashish, this is all they are very much junior and very new to the pharma field. Guide them what is the basic level about the clinical trial you just introduced to them. Yes,
Okay.
please start.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Amul sir. It's a pleasure, to be with so many number of students. This is, I think, after years, I'm kind of interacting with students. I'm used to kind of training CRA, staff, or already people who are working on studies in the industry. But probably after a long time, I'm talking to students. So I put together some slides, but I've tried to keep them very basic, just to kind of introduce you to what the industry is. So, second, I'll just go there. Okay, the introduction was interesting. So, as I'm also explaining that, we were trying to get me into masters and stuff. So, what I realized that when we are doing a pharmacy, our outlook is not much focused on what's out there in terms of what opportunities are out there. We kind of try to follow a herd, like whatever everyone else is doing, we would want to do it, right? But I think times have changed, things are changing so fast. I think where we need to be more aware of what's out there. We need to think, oh, I'm gonna be finishing my pharmacy in 2 years, 3 years, my MPharm in next year. What am I gonna do? I think that's where I'm coming from. That students, you need to look out what's happening out in the industry, rather than following the same path of oh, I'm gonna do after pharmacy, I'm gonna do MPharm, I'm gonna join academia, I'm gonna when we were doing pharmacy, we had very limited information of what's the real world, what's out there, what are we going to do. So that's where I'm coming from, that I would like to introduce you to this very interesting field of research. We call it, clinical research. So I'm just going to try to give you some little overview of that. Okay, so the agenda today, I'm just going to talk about what's clinical research, what are clinical trials. I'm just going to give you a little introduction about the industry, who are the main players. And I also want you to think about what are the different careers out there. It is not all about, oh, I'm going to do M.Pharm, I'm going to do a PhD. Yeah, but then what after that? Why are you doing this? What are the rules out there? And how whatever you're going to do, whatever you have decided to do, how that's going to help you to get there. I think that's where I'm coming from. So just introduction of an industry, and it's kind of giving you a kind of impetus or a kind of nudge just to think, that you really need to think out of the box. You really need to be focused kind of outwards towards the industry. Okay. So what is clinical trials? So, or what is this clinical research industry I'm talking about? Yeah, we all, in our curriculum, we all learn about pharmaceutics, pharmacology, chemistry, all that, and there are thousands and thousands of molecules out there. The researchers are, so prolific. There are so many molecules coming out there. Then, then we have all the preclinical testing, lab testing, animal testing, in vivo, in vitro modeling. We do everything. And at the end of that, we come up with a promising, drug entity or drug molecule. But, you have proved efficacy and you have proved safety in mice. That doesn't warrant you that the drug is safe to use for humans. Okay, so everything that you have done in the lab is we will call it as preclinical testing, or it's part of the drug discovery. But after that, when a pharma company, when a biopharmaceutical company, when a researcher has a molecule which they think can work in human beings, we have to test them first in human beings. Yeah, so the clinical research starts there. Okay, so you have a molecule. Now we want to bring it to market, because everything is a market. Why are you doing research? You want to find a drug that can be used by patients at the end of the day. It needs to be marketed. But this field of research is very much regulated, and it is dictated by all the governments, the FDAs, MHRAs, DCGI in India, like what you can do and what you cannot do. There are very strict guidelines, and the industry is built around that guidelines. Okay, so in a nutshell, clinical research industry are a group of companies or a group of researchers, group of doctors who would test your new molecular entity into human beings under a strict regulatory guidelines. And remember this word, like I would use GCP all the time in this presentation. It's called good clinical practices. Okay, and good clinical practices forms the basis of all the or most of the countries have adopted good clinical practices as a basis in formatting or formulating their regulations and laws, and which govern the whole industry, clinical research. Okay, so when you have a new molecule, you need to start testing it in humans. So logically, how the process is going to work? Okay, you cannot just take that molecule and say I want to do a drug trial, and I would test it in X number of people. And for example, now I was reading some news about coronavirus, and then the alternative medicines like Ayurveda, and due respect to all these medicines branches, but they wanted to do trials, and then there were some hindrances, like they were not allowed to do that because they were not falling in that exact format. Okay, so what was the reason behind that? Well, the difference in allopathy, we can actually measure the amount of drug that we are administering to the patients. Okay, and that measure, that dose finding, what is the minimum dose, or what is the maximum tolerated dose that we can give to a patient or to a healthy volunteer in the first place, is the key finding that we need to know in the first phase of clinical studies. Okay, so the clinical trials, so clinical research is divided into 4 phases. Generally speaking, 4 phases. We can, they can be more sub phases. So they call phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4. Yeah, simple. 4 phases. So there are 3 phases required, and after the 3 phases, enough data is generated to submit FDA, MHRA, or DCGI approval. So to the marketing approval, basically, that we have got all this data and we have got these fancy results. Our drug works, so can we market it? Okay, and then there is the 4th phase. So 4th phase is after the drug is available to patients. Again, this pathway can change, based on what the drug is, how niche that drug is, what is the need. For example, for COVID-19 medicines, this pathway would be altered. Yeah, we always hear in news that there was so much of awareness about COVID-19, like, oh, there is a new drug trial started in Oxford, and that's going to be available. The vaccine is going to be available in June. Yeah, I have heard these news. But believe me, these are all news. Nobody can say whether a drug or vaccine will be available or not, and when it will be available. Of course, regulatory agencies are kind of changing their pathways, adapting, helping researchers to put the vaccine through as quickly as possible. But that is not guaranteed. Nobody can say, oh, the vaccine will be available in June, the vaccine will be available in September. Nobody knows that, because everything has to go through these strict guidelines. Okay, so what happens in the phase 1 of clinical studies? Yeah, phase 1 of clinical studies is essentially when you don't know whether this drug, which is safe in animal models, is going to be safe in human beings. Okay, so that's the most conservative and the most intensive phase of clinical research. Okay, you have specialist companies, they have specialist units. They are kind of, you can just compare them with a ICU or something, where you have all kind of equipments available to save human life. Okay, and you can administer drug in those kind of facilities, and these trials are done generally in healthy volunteers. Okay, anybody that has any critical conditions, they will not be part of these phase 1 trials. They want healthy young adults to try the first dose in human beings. Okay, and then that dose would be as minimum as possible. Again, the phase would be broken down in, for example, you would have up to around 20 to 100 patients in phase 1, but you will not start with 100 patients. You would start with 1 patient or a cohort of 2 patients, and that you will give them a very, very minimal dose just to understand whether it's safe. Okay, and then at the background, probably you might be able to, if you search online, you might be able to see a phase 1 clinical trial protocol. You can see how intensive that is. There are hundreds of tests in there, and everything is kind of, it will tell you after 30 seconds you need to do that, after 1 minute you do that. Okay, and all that is monitored, all that data is taken back. Even after those first 2 patients of dosing, there is a advisory board sitting behind you, and they would want to see that data first. They would want to analyze the data first, and then only the next cohort of, say, 4 more patients. I'm just making an example. These are not real terms. These are, and this is how it happens. I'm just giving you an example. So gradually, they, as the drug proves safe, like, oh yeah, this dose is acceptable in 2 patients, but then I would increase the dose. Oh, this dose is also acceptable in 2 patients. Then I increase the number of patients. Yeah. So that's how you would complete your phase 1. And at the end of it, all you have not tried that drug in your target patient population yet. You have tried the drug only in healthy volunteers. And then what you're proving is that healthy person can have this drug without any catastrophic effects. That's all what you're trying to prove in phase 1. Again, there is exception. If you have cancer drug, cancer drugs you don't try in healthy volunteers generally, because obviously they are cytotoxic. So when you do chemotherapy, obviously there are very, very intense side effects. So normally, phase 1 cancer trials, they would be done in patients directly, but that's an exception. Okay. So after phase 1, after you have found the dose and you have found that drug is safe, then you move on to the next phase. So we call it as a proof of concept phase. So this is the first time you would want to introduce that drug in the target patient population. So if I'm finding a drug for diabetes, then this is the first time a diabetic patient would try it. Yeah. And then even at this stage, the focus is mainly on finding, in a weird way, in finding undesirable effects. Whether in trying to find out whether the drug is safe. You're still focusing on, because what you're trying to do is, you're trying to prove that, yeah, the drug, yeah, it worked or it was safe in healthy people, but it is also safe in diabetic patients, for example. So in this, phase of study, you have about, 100 plus, 100, 200, 300 patients. And all you're focused on is collecting, remember all this throughout these 4 phases, your focus is on safety data. You're trying to find out that there are no catastrophic effects, there are no serious side effects from a medicine. This is all what you're trying to do. That's the most important thing. Yeah, the efficacy part comes later. The efficacy can be, if you can't prove efficacy in one patient group, you can try it another one. But I think if a drug is proved unsafe earlier on in the trials, it doesn't go through. Okay, so in the second phase, you have about 100, 200 patients, and then this is the first time you're trying to prove the efficacy. Okay, after the second phase, again, you take back all the data, you analyze it, you prove things, and then you submit it to the regulatory authority saying, this is what we've done. The data looks promising. The drug is effective. So can we move on to the third phase? Then you again develop another protocol for the phase 3. And phase 3 is kind of more real life study. So you can have 1,000, you can have many thousand patients depending on what your drug is in phase 3. So it's kind of more real life. So remember, each of these stage has their own protocol, and the protocol will define what kind of patients there'll be. It's called inclusion criteria and exclusion criteria. What are the patients that you're going to let in, and what are the kind of patients that you're going to exclude? So in the earlier phases, you would exclude anybody with complications. They're not real life patients. They are very mild patients, you can say, in the first 2 phases. But when it comes to phase 3, there are more real life patients. Almost there will be inclusion exclusion criteria, but a large cohort of patients will be included. And this is kind of in real life that you're proving that the drug still works. And this is where generally these are the comparator trials. So what you would do is, oh, I have this, say a new molecule or new drug or new combination that I want to try in phase 3. Then I'm going to compare it with what is the standard of therapy. Say, for example, say in diabetes, you have a new drug and you're going to just compare it with metformin. You're going to compare it with metformin. You're going to have another cohort. You're going to have patients who are on insulin, patients who are not on insulin, patients who are, one tablet or whatever, OD of metformin, your patients who are on, TID and metformin. You're going to include everybody. And you're going to use their data just to try to find out where does the drug work. Again, this focus on safety is not diluted. Okay. And after all these 3 phases, then you get the data, you say, oh, this drug works. You submit it to the regulatory authorities. And now they give you the permission to launch the drug into the market. So that's when you kind of upscale your production. You launch it gradually in different markets, but then you still not finish with your clinical studies. You still have to do the phase 4 of clinical studies, which is more of safety data collection. So which is which is also called patient reported outcomes. So you need to have a mechanism in place where you are testing, whether you're collecting real life data on marketed drugs, when you need to have a mechanism in place where patients can ring in, patient can send email, patient can send information about any untoward occurrence, any side effects of the drug, and you build your safety data. And you're going to keep submitting that safety data periodically to authorities saying, see, we are getting this data and it still proves that the drug is effective. Okay, so it's quite a long process and there is a huge industry built around it. But can you imagine like how many drugs come through this process and come to market? Very few. If there are 10,000 molecules in preclinical testing, one would come to market. And you can imagine the amount of money that goes in R&Ds, the amount of money. And, it takes about 7 to 15 years, depending on what you are working on. So if you think 15 years to develop one drug, you can imagine the amount of money that goes in. So in a funny way, all the sponsors, all the pharma companies, all the biotech companies would want to know whether their molecule is not gonna work as early as possible. We call it, we just say, we like to kill the molecule as early as possible. Because if something comes through all the way to phase 3, or some drugs, they come to phase 4, and then they are withdrawn from market. So you can imagine that financial impact on a company. Companies like Pfizer and Novartis, they kind of lost their half of their share values or a quarter of their share values because one of the drugs failed in phase 3. So you can just imagine the financial impact of all these things happening. Even a drug comes to market, phase 4, you're collecting safety data, and the safety data proves that, the rate of heart attacks have increased in patients who have been on these drugs after 2 years being in market. Okay, again, the drug gets withdrawn. So it takes a lot of effort and a lot of money to launch a drug into the market. So pharma companies are working on trying to get, the best kind of people, the best kind of technology in place, trying to shorten this window. Time is money. Yeah, the longer you would take to develop a drug, the more it's gonna cost you. And again, after that, you only have 20 years of patent, haven't you? and then half of the time would just goes in developing the drug, bringing it to market. So there's hardly any time left to recoup all the investment. Okay, so this is where there is a big pressure on pharma industries that they want to bring all these drugs to market, but they want them to do very quickly. And this is where, like, doing it quickly, doing it more efficiently, this is where the next chain, the next industry comes in, which is called clinical research organizations. So I don't know how much you are aware of this term, clinical research organizations. They're called contract research organizations. They're also called, some people call they collaborative research organizations. People use this term in many ways. Okay, but they're basically contract clinical research organizations. So why why and where this industry started? Okay, so you can imagine a pharma company, and they would have, say, large pharma company, Glaxo and Pfizer, and they would have many molecules in pipeline, yeah, or Roche or Abbott, or they have many molecules in pipeline. Whereas there are mid-sized pharma companies, they have a few molecules. There are small pharma companies, small biotech spin-outs. All these companies, they would have one or two molecules in place. But then if they have to go through all phases of research, and every phase of research, depending on where you are, what you're doing at the time, a different kind of resource is needed, a different kind of knowledge set is needed. A regulatory person is needed, a project manager is needed, but depending on when, what stage you are, all of them are not needed at the same time. But historically, pharma companies used to have their own clinical trial units, which some of them still have. But then it was such an overhead. Like, they need to employ a regulatory person all the time, whereas that person is gonna kind of have a main role when they are doing the submissions to the regulatory authorities, submission to the ethics committee. So ethics committee is another big piece in the jigsaw. So all this was overheads. That's why these new industry, I would say new, but it's still 25-year-old. So clinical research organization, CRO industry came in place. So what they're doing is that what they're telling pharma companies is, okay, you mind your business, you mind your drug discovery process. We will not do drug discovery for you. But when you have a molecule that you want to try out, we will try it out for you. We will manage all these phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and phase 4 part of your molecule. You don't need to run the heavy machinery. And because these are specialist companies doing only clinical research, as CROs, we work with a lot more companies. So we have a lot of product, lot of molecules in development at the same time. And that's where we can use the resources more efficiently. We can buy the best systems in the world. We can change the systems. We can adapt to the new, say for example, COVID-19, everything is changed. Yeah. All the hospitals have stopped taking research patients, or if they are taking research patients, it has to be done in a specific way, and you have to adapt. You have to change very, very quickly. And if you have a big, huge company, from working for the last 60 years, and you have your set way of going, it's very difficult to change. It's the change doesn't come very quickly. So this is where CROs have very slick model. Their organization is very slick. They are service based, and we can adapt very, very, very quickly. So this is why the whole industry kind of came in place. That you do drug discovery, you do marketing, you do production, however way you do it, all we will do is we will run your clinical trials. Okay, so when you run clinical trials, the main players are your sponsor organization, your pharma company, your clinical research organization, who has taken that contract to run the clinical trial. Okay, then you're going to run that clinical trial at hospital sites or at specialist units. So all the doctors, all the hospital staff, so that comes in place. Okay. So you need machinery to run those trials. So you need to give a lot of support to these hospital staff. Yeah. So all your project management, your logistics management, a lot of other systems, you're generating a lot of data. So data management organizations, or data management departments, all that data needs to be analyzed. So again, statisticians, you need statisticians, and whatever the statisticians find out, you need to put them together to be able to submit it. So that's where your medical writing teams come in place. And all this has to happen within the regulatory framework. So from the start to end, your quality management and auditing team is in place. So a CRO, when you think of a CRO, a CRO can be very, very flexible. People can, a bunch of people like me can come together and start a CRO. Whereas we would just call it as a CSO, we contract service organization, because we would provide service, like we do clinical monitoring for you, we will do the statistical analysis for you. But we are still very small organizations. We're just providing service. We're not providing them. Oh, we would provide you a repository system, or a lot of other things. So to provide a lot of other things, a lot of services under one umbrella, you need big organization. Again, they are very big, like CROs. I think I'll show you what are the biggest CROs in the world right now. And even they are $10 billion companies. Their annual revenues are like $10 billion. So they are not small companies. They are huge. But even in terms of pharma, they're small, because we are looking at only one part of business. Okay. So so that's basically, so a CRO is providing these specialty services to pharma. Those are the CROs. So how does it work with pharma? When I'm working with a CRO, for the CRO, I'm working with pharma. How does it work? I think initial days, the pharma and CRO relationship was very tactical, or very transactional. What I mean is, I have this drug. You would do 4 monitoring visits for me. You would find 5 clinical sites for me, or I will decide what are the sites. You just need to set up the study there. So there was no integration. It was more like, this is the money, do this job. There's no relationship as such, take your money and do the job, that kind of thing initially. But eventually, now you can see here from transactional, people are moving towards kind of preferred partners, forming alliances, and even integration now these days. So why? Because the more you work with a pharma company collaboratively, the more you can add value. Yeah. So recently, or not, you can see that, say for example, Roche. Yeah. Roche has outsourced all of their clinical trials. It's not what previously pharma company used to do is, oh, I'm going to give one clinical trial to Covance, say one clinical trial to Quintiles, one clinical trials to PPD. I'm going to try to see, who works the best, all that kind of stuff. So, you would not want to, that mentality of, you don't want to put, everything in one basket. So that's how people were working. But now things are changing. Like CROs are becoming more of partners with pharma. So Roche has outsourced everything. Like all their molecules are being developed by one company, IQVIA. Say, I remember, earlier days, I remember, say, a big pharmaceutical company coming to us and saying, you know what? These are our 15 molecules in development. What can you do about it? Or which one we should pick to take forward? This is a big thing. that, a pharmaceutical company, of the size of, say, Glaxo or Roche, coming to you and opening up and telling you the inner stories, their very much proprietary information, saying, these are our molecules, what should we do? Things have come to that stage where pharma companies kind of do not want to own this piece at all. They just want to have a good partnership, and kind of the clinical development piece is driven by the CROs. And I don't know how much I would always advise students to look at Pharma Times or whatever resources are. There are so many online resources where you can see, and you can see what's happening in the industry, what's happening in CROs, what's happening in pharma companies, what are the new drugs which are coming, what is the impact of a patent expiry, what is the impact of a new drug being approved. This is phenomenal. Like, things change so quickly. The companies that I used to work with as a CROs, those were the top 10 CROs, they have merged. Now they are called completely different thing. They are working with different systems. This space, the CRO space, it's so dynamic. It is changing every now and then. But but the industry, the drug development is in these people's hand. These people are driving it. These people are going to drive it. Again, now machine learning is coming in. The artificial intelligence is coming in, and that is changing so many things. There are some more players. For example, we used to have all these clinical trials run on paper. Obviously there were data management systems, but there were a lot of paper records being generated. Now all that is scrapped. Everything is gone, on cloud. Even at hospitals, the records are uploaded. There are so many. There's so many new technology where they can, they can block. For example, as a CRO or the pharma company, I'm not supposed to know the patient records, like patients' confidential records, and that wasn't. There was no way to hide that information from us in old times. Now things are changing. Now everything is online. It is become so sleek, and it is changing really, really fast. So watch this space. Always be aware of what's happening. Just don't stick to the books. Just look around. Okay. So nowadays, CROs are more of partners with pharma, and this is where kind of you and me, when you come out of your degrees, this is where you're going to land, should you choose to be in clinical research. Yeah. If you're in clinical research after your pharmacy, there's no escape from these guys, because they are the giants of clinical trials. You can see these names are like the Coans, Quintiles. Quintiles doesn't exist as a Quintiles now. It's called IQVIA. They have merged two huge companies. Huge means really huge. They have been owned by completely different people. Par Excel is changed. Icon is changed. There's so many takeovers. The space is changing, and there are so many new players with advanced technology which are coming in. But why this, all this is happening? At the moment, the CRO market is about $50 billion. The turnover is $50 billion per annum. And it is projected to grow to about, $70 million in the next 7 years, which is still growing with over 5% annually. And Asia Pacific is growing a little faster than that. It's slightly more, but again, Asia Pacific can offer a lot of advantages. There are lots of jobs in India, or sorry, I have to admit that I have not been working in Asia Pac for last 10 years, so I'm slightly, I can say, I'm not completely aware of everything happening around there. But obviously, I can see outsourcing going in there, the safety, safety databases are built there, they are analyzed there. There are lots of services which are going that way. So obviously there are lots of jobs there. And probably if you are, interested, and if you are planning to, or, if you plan to, you're going to land working in, one of these big organizations. So that's where I wanted you to be aware of the CRO industry. Okay, so I'm gonna talk a little bit about what are the different, different departments within within this space, within this clinical research space, and what are the different kind of jobs that are available. I know it probably, for the year 1 pharmacy students, it is too early to talk about it, but it's not too early for somebody who is in year 3 or year 4. So, we'll just kind of go through these quickly. I wouldn't linger on that one. Okay, so when you're starting a new project, when you are starting a new trial, what you need? You need a protocol. Okay, you need you need clinical sites or hospital sites where you're gonna implement that clinical protocol. Okay, so implementing clinical protocol, you need to have permissions. Okay, so permissions from regulatory agency, permissions from ethics committees. So ethics is a big part of research. Yeah. So ethics means, say for example, if I'm a doctor and I know I want the drug to pass the testing, yeah, then there is possibility that there is a bias involved in the research that I'm doing. So if I'm allocating a patient to that drug, I might already know that patient, that, oh, he's a safe guy, yeah, no, not many complications. So I would allocate this patient to my new drug because I'm working with the sponsor and there is my self-interest in getting this drug passed. So all this is malpractice. Yeah, all this malpractice shouldn't happen. So this is very, very carefully watched and this is very, very carefully monitored. Okay. So there are ethics committees, there are regulatory authorities. So you really need to, you need specialist people to talk to these guys, tell them what you're going to do, how you're going to do, what are the documents you're going to produce, what are the documents you're going to present to the patients, and explain to them that how your research proposal is truly valuable in the current scenario of that particular therapeutic area. Okay. So you need those regulatory people, you need those startup people. We call them startup because their role is in the startup to find the investigator, to talk with the regulatory authorities, to talk with the ethics committees. Okay. Then you need a team who can implement your clinical trial at the clinical sites. So they are the project management people. Okay. So you need a project manager, you need a clinical trial associate, you need a clinical monitor. Okay, you need a document specialist, a lot of small different roles within that space. Also, all this is watched very carefully by QA. So there are QA rules in there. All this data being generated. So you have clinical data management, biostats rules, there are safety rules. So a lot is happening within this space. So I'll just try to go through each department very quickly. I know we only have 10 minutes left. So I would just kind of rush through these. So feasibility, what is feasibility? The feasibility is, so when I'm doing a phase 3 trial, I'm not doing it in one country, I'm doing it in 45 different countries. So how do I know that sitting here, I want to do this trial in Israel, for example, or in Japan? Which hospital do I go to? Yeah. So this is where the feasibility team comes in place, and they are specialists in knowing probably mostly what happens around the world. And then you would have sub team members sitting in that country who have the local knowledge, or you can hire somebody in locally and get that local knowledge. You can, they would, we would just go through thousands of research papers and try to find out who are the most eminent researchers, who are the most eminent doctors in that country, where we want to place a drug out. This is very critical because until now, I think a third of the clinical sites that you set up don't recruit. So all that money that is invested is gone. And that's what doesn't need to happen. This is why we are there. This is where, we need this specialist knowledge. So all these feasibility people will try to find out where you would find patients, who can give you patients, who will recruit as quickly as possible. Okay, so they're going to determine, the locations of trial, the investigators. They're going to assume, or they're going to try to find out, okay, what is the prevalence in this country? What is the prevalence of this, this disease in this area, this hospital? How many patients can they give us? So this is a very, very critical, very, very important step in setting up a study, finding your sites, finding your investigators. So the feasibility team will do all that. So once you have decided, who's going to do your trials, then the study startup team comes in place. Okay. So when you're doing study for a hospital, they don't do it for free, is it? They were not going to do it for free. So there are lots of things, a lot of negotiation comes in place, what they're going to do, how they're going to do, how much they're going to charge, how is there going to be the training, who is going to be on the study. Yeah. So all this is dealt with by the study startup people. So there are contract analysts, there are, submission analysts, there are proposal analysts. There are lots of different roles within this space. Okay, so they just deal with setting up your site. And in the background, your project manager, your CRAs are working on how you're going to train these people. Okay, in the background, the document management people. You can see the document management. So document management does what? All these records which are being generated in the clinical study, they are held in a central system. They are also held at the site. Okay, so all these people are making sure your documents are correct. Your documents are approved by the review boards. They are all this clinical staff trains on the correct documents, and they are accessible. They are auditable. They are available to whoever is who's required. So these people would manage all the documentation for the study. The project manager in the background is talking about a lot of things. And I think project manager is the key person for the success of a trial. I think he is talking about 100 different departments and just trying to get things in place, because there is budget, there is drug being available, the drug being transported, the drug being kept in correct conditions. There is reporting, there is a sponsor to talk to, the sponsor expectations, there are day-to-day problems, there are vendors providing different services. So he is the key guy who is dealing with all that. And then there is clinical trial monitoring, or under project management, you have a lead clinical trial associate, clinical research, who is managing what's happening at the sites. So the site initiation, so they're starting the sites, their training, the data that they are generating, visiting to the sites, checking on them, saying they are adhering, they are doing everything according to the protocol. If they have issues, what are the issues? If they're not recruiting, why they're not recruiting? Motivating them to recruit. A project manager's job, a clinical trial, a CRA job is you will never have the same day every day. Every day you come to the office, you decide, oh, I'm going to do this. That never happens, because there is something waiting for you on table which is not anticipated. You're always firefighting, but that's what makes it interesting. Okay, and then there are regulatory managers, who come in place in the beginning, in the middle of the studies, in the middle of the phases, as the data becomes available, that is analyzed, that is submitted. So there is some ongoing interaction there. and then all this data is being generated in a system. So the site staff have to enter all this data in EDC systems. Now there are direct data entries as well. Now the new systems can, so they can enter their data in their systems, and we can extract the data, using our system. So the data entry is slashed. But then, every day. For example, I was talking about that issue, like bias in research. So to avoid that, we have randomization in place. We have that means the drug can be randomized, randomly given to patients rather than a choice. There is blinding in place. Even the doctor wouldn't know whether this patient is having a drug or whether this patient is taking a placebo. Then there are safety people. So safety is again key importance. There are lots of jobs in safety. Pharmacovigilance, like pharmacy guys, and they go in pharmacovigilance, they become the safety officers. So doctors become medical monitors. There is, all these people get together and they form these data safety monitoring boards. They would look at the data like a hawk, and they will decide whether the trial goes further or not. There will be significant cases, like if there is a safety issue, if somebody has a heart attack after taking the drug, why it happens, so the case management. So a lot is happening in the background. And again, as I said, the quality people are there from some start to the end. They're making sure that everything happens according to how it needs to happen. So there is tremendous potential. There are lots of jobs, but then everything needs a specialist niche kind of skill. So you need to work on the skills. It is not only about your curriculum. It doesn't have, it is not warranted that, because I have done M.Pharm, or if I have done PhD, I will get into this field. No, you need to have those specific skills. I think that's where I'm coming next, is, how do I get into it? There are so many jobs. They're really, really well-paid jobs. For example, there was this guy, we had a mock FDA audit. And mock FDA audit is, FDA audit is not a real FDA audit. It's somebody is pretending to be a FDA person, and he is having a mock, unreal, fake audit. But we do that from time to time, because then that way we can keep our systems in check. They're audit ready. So this person would charge in Indian rupees 1.5 lakh rupees a day, easily. Okay, but that is after 20 years of experience. But they are, this industry is very well paid. You have good jobs in there. Well, the example that I have given you is the extreme example. Not everybody makes that kind of money, but still, there are lots of jobs. So how do you get to it? I think this is where kind of, this is what I was looking at this talk for. That we need to change our focus. We need to think, what, in addition to my passing my pharmacy exam, other than that, what can I do? So yeah, invest in additional learning. So you need to, whatever. It's not about clinical research only. Anything that you want to do, just look what's out there. Things are changing very fast. The technology is taking over a lot of other things. So what is the thing that what is something extra that you can do while you're studying? I know when we were doing pharmacy, there was a trend about just getting people don't want to do industrial training. They would just take a certificate saying, industrial training is done. Don't do those kind of things. Okay. Until you go out, until you work, until you, slog for those 2 months, you have no clue what's out there. So that's your opportunity where you can really go, you can make connections, you can learn, and you can put that saying, I have done this. Yeah. So I've seen many people who are even and moreover in this industry, it's not because only pharmacy guys would get, biomedical, biochemistry, biopharmaceutical, pharmacy, MBBS, BAMS, anybody can enter in this industry. So there's fierce competition. But then this is where you need to see, what's out there and what else, what extra you can do. Volunteer in a hospital, volunteer in a research institute, try to be part of a clinical trial, and don't anticipate that you're gonna directly hit and get a job and land in Quintiles or IQVIA or Kuans. There, I think especially in India, there are many small companies. Start small and build your career there, because that's how you're gonna grow. Get some kind of experience, get some kind of soft skills. Imagine, as a monitor, I need to go and talk to an investigator who has been doing research for 45 years. I'm gonna tell him, sir, this is where it went wrong. It's a very, very difficult thing. You need really, really, really good soft skills to do this. So work on your soft skills, work on your presentations, work on building yourself as a person, developing yourself as a person, make yourself sellable. That's where you're going to get in the industry, and that's where you're going to flourish. Okay, I think that's it. That's what I wanted to do today. I just wanted to give you an overview of there is this industry, there are all these jobs, but there is something extra that you need to do. That's all I wanted to tell from this presentation. Lovely, thank you. Okay.
Yeah. Any questions from the student side? Ma'am. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Just ask to the students. Is there any questions from the students?
Okay, if any question from student, just raise your hand, or you can drop the question in chat box.
Yes, you can ask the question in Marathi also. Ashish, महाराष्ट्रीयन आहे, तुम्ही मराठीत सुद्धा क्वेश्चन हे करू शकता. फक्त यू रेज युअर हँड, तुम्हाला ते अनम्यूट करतील आणि मग तुम्ही प्रश्न विचारू शकता.
They are muted, so just put in the chat box also.
Hello, sir. Good morning.
Yes, good morning.
सर क्वेश्चन असा होता की सर तुम्ही इंडियाच्या बाहेर म्हणजे महाराष्ट्रातून इंडियाच्या बाहेर गेला शिकण्यासाठी, मग तिथं तुम्हाला भरपूर अपॉर्च्युनिटी असेल किंवा खूप सारी स्पर्धा असेल, मग तिथं टिकताना किती प्रॉब्लेम आले, कसे हँडल केले तुम्ही ते प्रॉब्लेम?
आय थिंक प्रत्येक ठिकाणी कॉम्पिटिशन तर आहेच ना, कुठेही गेलं तरी.
म्हणजे असा काही प्रॉब्लेम आला का की त्यावेळेस असं वाटलं नाही की मी माझ्या भारतात, माझ्या महाराष्ट्रात असतो तर हा प्रॉब्लेम मला फेस करावा लागला नसता?
नाही, मला असं वाटत नाही की असं काही आहे की इथे जे प्रॉब्लेम आहे ते तिथे नाहीये, असं काही नाहीये. म्हणजे तुम्हाला नाणं खणखणीत वाजवायला लागतं, तेव्हाच तुम्हाला चांगली अपॉर्च्युनिटी मिळते. त्यामुळे म्हणजे आय थिंक द की इज काइंड ऑफ की पॉझिटिव्ह आणि जस्ट वर्क ऑन युअरसेल्फ, वर्क ऑन काइंड ऑफ वर्क ऑन एक्स्ट्राज. दॅट एक्स्ट्रा मॅटर्स.
ओके सर, थँक्यू.
प्रॉब्लेम इज द पार्ट ऑफ लाईफ.
म्हणजे असं काही नाही की म्हणजे इवन जसं अमोल सर सांगत होते की आय वॉज ट्राइंग टू गेट इन टू एम-फार्म, राईट?
बोलतोय
बरोबर ना. म्हणजे तेव्हा असं नाही झालं की बाबा तिथं लाईफ थांबलेलं आहे, असं तर होत नाही. यू मूव्ह ऑन समथिंग अँड गेट समथिंग एल्स.
सेम विथ मी, बिकॉज मला सुद्धा पीएचडी करायला इथं खूप प्रॉब्लेम दिसत होते किंवा अडचणी येत होत्या. त्याऐवजी मी जर्मनीमध्ये पीएचडी सहजपणे करू शकलो कम्पेअर टू इंडिया.
कधी कधी ते सोपं पण आहे.
तेच ना,
भारताच्या बाहेर पण सोपं आहे.
हॅलो,
कम्पेअर टू इंडिया. नेक्स्ट क्वेश्चन.
तुम्हाला सगळ्यांना एवढं थोडक्यात सांगायचं आहे की क्लिनिकल ट्रायल ही सुद्धा खूप मोठी चांगली जॉब ऑपॉर्च्युनिटी आहे. आता आम्ही जेव्हा बी-फार्म केलं त्यावेळी आम्हाला या काहीही गोष्टी माहित नव्हत्या. यू आर द फॉर्च्युनेट की आज तुम्हाला या गोष्टीचं आम्ही एक्सपोजर करून देऊ शकतोय. त्याच्या मागचं एकमेव कारण म्हणजे आता आशिषलाही माहिती आहे, आम्हाला जीआरयू टोफेलचं नाव कधी आम्ही 4 वर्षात कधी घेतलेलं नव्हतं. इथं तुम्हाला त्याचं एक्सपोजर आहे. तुम्हाला ऍटलीस्ट एवढं नाव सुद्धा कळलं. यू आर फार म्हणजे खूप पुढे आहात तुम्ही, आणि मग त्या पद्धतीने तुम्ही तुमचं करिअर आहात. कारण फार्मसीमध्ये इतका पैसा किंवा इतकं नाव तुम्ही कमवू शकता की जे दुसऱ्या कुठल्याही प्रोफेशन मध्ये शक्य नाहीये. त्यामुळं बी प्राऊड ऍज अ फार्मासिस्ट. आणि अजून काही कोणाचे क्वेश्चन असतील तर तुम्ही विचारू शकता. जस्ट रेज युअर हँड.
हॅलो सर.
हॅलो.
सर आवाज येतोय का?
हा येतोय बोला.
Yes, yes.
Sir, you said that just don't focus on your books and academics, do something else. So then what is the particular thing we can do as students?
Well, it's very difficult to pinpoint at specific things. I think मला वाटतं की की आपल्याला म्हणजे जर आपण आता नवीन जर तुम्ही पाहिलं तर देर आर कंपनीज कॉल्ड से विवा सिस्टम्स किंवा मेडिडेटा. तर ते लोक आलेले आहेत आणि त्यांनी काय केलेलं आहे की फार्मा कंपन्यांच्या ओल्ड सिस्टम्स ज्या सगळ्या होत्या ना त्या सगळ्या त्यांनी मर्ज करून टाकल्या. ते म्हणले की आम्ही तुम्हाला नवीन सिस्टम देतो. तुमचे सिस्टम्स एकमेकांशी बोलत नाही, तुमचा सेफ्टी डेटाबेस तुमच्या क्लिनिकल डेटाबेसशी बोलत नाही, आमची सिस्टम यूज करा, आमचं सगळं इंटिग्रेटेड आहे. तर आय थिंक इट्स व्हेरी इम्पॉर्टंट की तुम्ही न्यूज वाचायला पाहिजे, फार्मा न्यूज वाचायला पाहिजे आणि त्याच्यामध्ये तुम्हाला कळतं की अरे हे नवीन आहे. ठीक आहे. फॉर एक्झाम्पल जे मशीन लर्निंग बोलतो मी, आता सगळेजण मशीन लर्निंग ठीक आहे. तर आता आम्ही काय करतोय तर जेव्हा कॅन्सर ट्रायल होते आणि कॅन्सर ट्युमर जेव्हा डॉक्टरनी पाहायचा असतो बघा, डॉक्टरला 2 मिनिटं असतात बघायला. ठीक आहे. त्या तो काय करणार, तो त्याचा असेसमेंट करणार आणि लिहिणार. ठीक आहे. देयर इज अ एलिमेंट ऑफ सब्जेक्टिव्हिटी. तर आता काय केलेलं आहे लोकांनी की त्यांनी केलेले आहेत की तो जो जे काही सिटी स्कॅन येणार आहे तो पहिला मशीन चेक करते आणि मशीनने ऑलरेडी लाखो स्कॅन्स पाहिलेले आहेत, त्यांचा रिझल्ट काय आहे तो त्यांनी डेटा फीड केलेला आहे, इट इज बीन ट्रेन, आणि ते आउटपुट देते आणि डॉक्टरचं काम आहे की तो आउटपुट फक्त व्हेरीफाय करणं. कळते का? म्हणजे जे पहिलं पूर्ण सब्जेक्टिव्ह होतं आता त्याला त्यांनी ऑब्जेक्टिव्ह करून टाकलं. तर त्यामुळे थिंग्स आर चेंजिंग. त्यामुळे असं एक गोष्ट म्हणाल की बाबा मी एक पिन पॉईंट करू की तुम्ही हे शिका त्याचा तुम्हाला फायदा होईल, तर असं मी सांगू शकत नाही किंवा कोणी सांगू शकत नाही. कारण मी तुम्हाला आज म्हणेल सॅस शिका. सॅस कालपर्यंत आमच्या कंपनीत वापरत होते, आज त्यांनी सॅस वापरणं बंद केलं, नवीन सिस्टम वापरायला. ठीक आहे. पण याच्यामध्ये काय माहितीये का, तुम्ही जे काही शिकाल ना ते वाया नाही जाणार. कारण यू हॅव अक्वायर्ड अ स्किल की मला सॅस येत होतं, आता त्यांनी सॉफ्टवेअर बदललं, आता त्यांनी व्हॉट एव्हर आणलेलं आहे, तर ते मला शिकू शकतो मी, कारण मी प्रूव्ह केलेलं आहे की मी सॅस शिकलोय. ठीक आहे. म्हणजे जे आपल्याला एक असतं ना की हिंड्रन्स असतो, अरे हे तर आयटी वाला आहे ना की मी कसं करू, म्हणजे तो जो हिंड्रन्स आहे ना आपल्या मनातला तो घालवायला पाहिजे. वी हॅव टू बी ओपन ना. हे नवीन आलं ना, ठीक आहे, मी नवीन शिकतो. कारण आता असे दिवस नाहीच आहेत की मी एकदा डिग्री घेतली आणि त्याच्यानंतर मी पुढची 25-30 वर्ष मी त्या डिग्रीच्या जीवावरती मी सगळं काही करेन. नाही, थिंग्स आर चेंजिंग. यू हॅव टू बी लर्निंग ऑल द टाइम. त्यामुळे बी अवेअर ऑफ वॉट्स हॅपनिंग अराउंड. आणि मेनली सॉफ्ट स्किल्स आर व्हेरी इम्पॉर्टंट. ही आपलं म्हणजे प्रेझेंटेशन तर ठीक आहे, इट्स व्हेरी कॉमन, पण हाऊ टू गेट थिंग्स डन इज अ व्हेरी इम्पॉर्टंट स्किल. आय थिंक अमोल कुलकर्णी सरांकडनं तुम्ही शिकू शकता हाऊ टू गेट थिंग्स डन. आमच्या फार्मसीला असताना पण ते ही वॉज अ की प्लेअर की काही पण काम कसं करून घ्यायचं, किती उत्तमपणे करून घ्यायचं. ही हॅड ग्रेट स्किल.
Yes. Again, any question?
आणि मला एक गोष्ट सांगायची होती की यू विल आस्क मी क्वेश्चन्स लाईक मला भारतामधल्या सीआरओ सांगा किंवा भारतामधले इन्स्टिट्यूट सांगा की मी जिथे जाऊन कोर्स करतो. तर इथे कसं कल्चर आहे ना की आम्ही तुम्हाला पॉइंटर दाखवतो पण काम तुम्ही करायचं. हे माझं काम नाहीये की मी तुम्हाला लिस्ट ऑफ सीआरओज देईन. इट इज युअर जॉब टू फाइंड इट आउट. फर्स्ट गेट टू नो अबाउट द फील्ड. आणि आता म्हणजे आपण रिसर्च रिलेटेड, फार्मसी रिलेटेड आहोत, फील्डमध्ये आहोत, तर यू हॅव टू वर्क, यू हॅव टू गेट दिस इन्फॉर्मेशन आउट. आणि एव्हरीथिंग इज ऑन द इंटरनेट. आमच्या वेळेला मला आठवतंय की सोलापूरमध्ये एक इंटरनेट कॅफे होता आणि तिथे जाऊन क्लिक करायचं आणि 5 मिनिटांनी विंडो ओपन व्हायची. the information was so less, like so scarce. It was available. But now ते नाही, तुम्हाला हवी ती इन्फॉर्मेशन तुमच्यावरती अवेलेबल आहे ना, फोन मध्ये अवेलेबल आहे. त्यामुळे यू जस्ट नीड टू लुक फॉर इट.
Ashish sir,
हांजी.
there is one question from my side. What is the success rate actually of the drug molecule? Means from passing preclinical phase to phase 1 and from phase 1 to phase 2, phase 2 to phase 3. That is success rate of the drug molecule. Actually.
मगाशी असं बोललो होतो की म्हणजे जेव्हा 10,000 स्क्रीनिंग मध्ये असतात त्यावेळेला एक मॉलिक्यूल जो आहे तो मार्केटमध्ये येतो. ठीक आहे. जर तुम्ही वेगवेगळ्या वेबसाईट बघितल्या तर ते लोक तुम्हाला वेगवेगळे आकडा देतील. म्हणजे
मी तेच म्हणतो की ऍक्च्युअली काय म्हणजे एक्सपिरियन्स.
इट डिपेंड्स ऑन जो तुम्हाला आकडा मिळतोय तो डेटा कुठून आलेला आहे, त्यांनी किती डेटा कलेक्ट केलेला आहे त्याच्यावरती डिपेंड आहे. कंपनीचा जो डेटा असेल, ग्रुप ऑफ कंपनीचा डेटा असेल तो वेगळा असेल, अकॅडमिकचा डेटा असेल तो वेगळा असेल. बट आय थिंक व्हॉट्स मोर इम्पॉर्टंट इज ओनली फ्रॅक्शन गेट्स थ्रू. म्हणजे साधारणपणे फेज 1 मध्ये 60% येत असतील तर फेज 30% राहतात आणि फेज 3 मध्ये मोस्टली गळतात त्यातले. मोस्ट इम्पॉर्टंट. आय थिंक द exact number probably we can't tell because everybody has a different data sets. Everybody is giving you a different number. That's why even that when I said it's 50 billion now and it's going to be 70 million. Again, if you read through 10 different companies' reports, they will give you slightly different numbers. So the numbers are variable, but I think the key concept is the same.
Okay. And what is the exact cost, approximate cost in developing one molecule in UK and compared to the India?
Well, the question is how many molecules have been developed in India? म्हणजे कॉस्ट वाईज काय त्याच्यामध्ये काय आहे ना की आता कसं आहे ना की जो क्लिनिकल डेटा जो आहे तो USFDA आहे. तर USFDA ला जर तुम्हाला पास करायचं आहे तर तुम्हाला जो क्लिनिकल डेटा जनरेट झालेला आहे म्हणजे जी ट्रायल झालेली आहे ती अमेरिकेतच व्हायला पाहिजे. अमेरिकेतल्या लोकांवरती तुम्ही ट्राय केलेला आहे की नाही हे ते पाहतात. ठीक आहे. युरोप मधला डेटा पण ते लोक ऍक्सेप्ट करतात. पण जसं इंडियामध्ये पण आता की जसं COVID-19 आहे तर स्ट्रेन वेगळा आहे बरोबर ना, प्रत्येक देशामध्ये असं म्हणतात. ठीक आहे. मग त्यामुळे तुम्हाला इंडियामध्ये ती क्लिनिकल ट्रायल करायला पाहिजे. ठीक आहे. तर मग हा जो आस्पेक्ट आहे ना की जो ऍक्च्युअल साईट निवडणं आणि तो स्टडी करणं, ठीक आहे, याची कॉस्ट वेगवेगळ्या देशामध्ये वेगवेगळी आहे. आणि त्याच्यामुळे ट्रेंड काय आहे तर वेस्टर्न कंट्री अमेरिका आणि वेस्टर्न युरोप मधून द ट्रेंड इज टू मूव्ह दिस क्लिनिकल ऑपरेशन्स इन टू ईस्टर्न युरोप आणि इंडिया, इंडोनेशिया, तैवान या सगळ्या कंट्रीज मध्ये.
ओके. डेव्हलपिंग कंट्रीज
म्हणजे you cannot not do a trial in America. Not do a trial in Europe. You have to have that data to get marketing approval in those countries. Okay. But जे allied systems आहेत ना, जसं डेटा मॅनेजमेंट आहे, सगळं मग डेटा मॅनेजमेंट आम्ही तैवानला पाठवून दिलं किंवा इंडियाला पाठवून दिलं. ठीक आहे. म्हणजे त्यामुळे आता तुम्हाला असं सेपरेट ऑब्व्हियसली म्हणजे रनिंग अ ट्रायल कम्प्लिटली इन इंडिया is going to be cheap, but if you're not able to market the drug in US, it's pointless because half of the 50% of the market share is US.
Yes.
पण अलाइड सिस्टम जे आहेत ना ते सगळे आपण आउटसोर्स करतो आपण रिलेटिव्हली चीप कंट्रीज मध्ये जिथे चीप रिसोर्सेस आहेत आणि दॅट्स हाऊ वी काइंड ऑफ कॉस्ट सेव्ह कॉस्ट. But yeah, there is big difference in the running the actual piece of trial.
And is there any difference in the regulatory bodies or the regulatory bodies in developing countries and developed countries? I mean, the rules regulations in developed countries are more stringent than the developing countries.
Yeah, in terms of I think the principles are the same. The principles are good clinical practices. Okay? पण याच्यामध्ये कसं आहे ना की आय थिंक जसं इंडियामध्ये झालो किंवा मी चायनामध्ये गेलो समजा मला चायनामध्ये ट्रायल रन करायची आहे. इट इज सो ब्युरोक्रॅटिक. ठीक आहे. ते सिमिलरली इंडियामध्ये पण तसं म्हणजे पण जी स्क्रुटिनी आहे ना डेटाची जी स्क्रुटिनी आहे ती म्हणजे USFDAचं ऑडिट असेल किंवा USFDA जेव्हा तुम्ही आपला मार्केटिंग ऑथरायझेशनसाठी अप्लाय करता त्यावेळेला ते तुमचा पूर्ण केस पाडतात की प्रत्येक गोष्टीचं एवढं जास्त अनालिसिस असतं त्यांचं, म्हणजे there is difference. Obviously, तिथे सगळ्यात जास्त मार्केट पण आहे. आणि एवढं करून सुद्धा म्हणजे आफ्टर द ड्रग हॅज कम टू पास द फेज 3 यू आर नॉट गॅरंटीड द मनी. कारण इथे कसं आहे ना की भारतामध्ये कसं आहे की युजर्स वर पे करतो ना. माझं आता जे मी मेडिकल डिव्हाइस वरती काम करतोय तर भारतामध्ये पण आहे, पण भारतामध्ये युजर पे करतोय. ठीक आहे, जो कोणी माझं सेन्सर युज करेल तो त्याची प्रिस्क्रिप्शन कॉस्ट भरेल. ठीक आहे, आणि मोठी मोठी हॉस्पिटल्स बिंदास प्रिस्क्राईब करतात. ठीक आहे, आता युके मध्ये मला ते प्रोडक्ट युज करायचं आहे तर इथे लोक पैसे देत नाहीत, गव्हर्नमेंट पैसे देते. ठीक आहे, तर मग इवन आफ्टर फेज 3 you have something called in UK they call NICE, which is the त्याच्यामध्ये ते लोक कॉस्ट बेनिफिट पण पाहतात. तुमचं कितपत म्हणजे इट इज नॉट सफिशियंट टू जस्ट स्टॅटिस्टिकली प्रूव्ह की आमचं जे नवीन ड्रग आहे ते ऑलरेडी जे स्टँडर्ड एक्झिस्ट करतं त्याच्या एवढंच चांगलं काम करत आहे. इट इज नॉट सफिशियंट. जर एवढंच काम करत आहे बट इफ द ऑलरेडी एक्झिस्टिंग स्टँडर्ड इज £5
then why should
and your drug is £50, why would they pay for you?
Yes.
You need to prove that cost benefit analysis as well. So that's another step. That's another industry.
Yeah, actually we have a PharmD course also here along with the B Pharm and M Pharm. Ashish sir.
काय
ऍक्च्युली आमच्याकडे एक डी फार्म बी फार्म आणि एम फार्म तर आहेच, आणि आमच्याकडे फार्मडी कोर्स पण आहे.
ओके, अच्छा,
इंटिग्रेटेड पीजी कोर्स.
अच्छा.
तर त्या जो फार्मडी कोर्स आहे तर त्यांना अनुषंगाने किंवा त्यांच्यासाठी क्लिनिकल रिसर्च मध्ये एंट्री करण्यासाठी कम्पेअर टू अदर ग्रॅज्युएट काही प्लस पॉइंट आहेत का किंवा ओपनिंग आहेत का असं काही?
अच्छा, मला वाटतं की हे डिस्कशन थोडस आउट ऑफ दिस मीटिंग करायला पाहिजे.
बरं, ठीक आहे.
आशिष डोंट नो फार्मडी कोर्स.
मला पण फार्मडी आहे दॅट इज नॉट अ डॉक्टरेट नंतर एक असतं ना तिथं पोस्ट डॉक असतो, तिथं फार्मडी एक असतो तिथं डॉक्टर. या दॅट इज डिफरंट अँड दिस इज अ डिफरंट वन ऍक्च्युली.
कारण फार्मडी यूएस मध्ये पण फार्मडी मिळतं.
पण हो, म्हणजे नाही तो कुठला पीजी कोर्स आहे का डॉक्टरेट का पोस्ट डॉक्टरेट आहे?
पोस्ट डॉक्टरेट मला वाटतं.
तो इंटिग्रेटेड आहे थोडक्यात, पीजी कोर्स आहे, इक्विव्हलंट टू पीजी कोर्स इंडियामध्ये.
अच्छा, ऑफलाईन बोलूया आपण याविषयी.
या any questions?
Zavade ma'am had the question.
Yeah.
Zavade ma'am.
Yes.
Yes.
Very good morning, sir. Your session is very nice and informative. Sir, my question is, if B Pharmacy students want to set their career in pharmacovigilance, in such a cases, is there need the student to complete the other pharma-related course, such like a clinical trial and clinical research?
Yeah, I think everybody should get the GCP training done. This is, you will find many GCP courses online. It is very cheap as well. You also need to try and kind of understand what is the safety database and what do they do when they get this information. Okay, what are the different, when you find out about the event, what are the things that are done? I think you should kind of try to investigate that. In terms of doing a specialist course, if somebody is offering you saying a 2 years degree in clinical research, probably I would be a bit kind of skeptical unless it's offering you saying in those 2 years until you're gonna work on the real stuff, work on real studies. I think that's not very useful, because this is not something because you have done a degree, the theoretical knowledge, you're going to get it.
Yes.
So, if there are courses which are putting you kind of through on-job training, I think they are very, very good courses, I would say. But if somebody's telling you, oh, they're gonna charge you like 4 lakhs for a 1-year course in clinical research, and they're gonna try you to place somewhere for 6 months at the end of it, I think I would be a bit worried about that.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah, any questions? Yeah, Lonkar ma'am, Vidya ma'am.
So one question is that from Pratiksha Kadam. 1 minute, sir. The question is that which are the company of CRO in India, sir?
Well, as I said, all these big companies, they do exist in India, but they are little difficult to get into, because they're gonna ask you, say, if you go to IQVIA or Covan, they're gonna ask you, they want 3 years of clinical research experience. But then there are lots of because this industry is so easy. It's very easy to form a company. Yesterday I was talking to somebody, and then just they come to our house. There was another person. We 4 of us talking together, and we were forming a company, because he was a immunologist. The other guy, he himself have developed 2 sensors, 2 finger prick point of care devices. He he has done that. There was another who was statistician, and I know somebody who is in or my other half is auditor. We were just sitting down or just talking 1 hour, standing there, and we decided, okay, can we just form a company? Yeah, it's it's that easy to form a company. Yeah, and that's why there are lots of companies, small companies in India, especially Gujarat and Ahmedabad, that area, which always had many pharma companies of their own. But then try to get into those small companies. Even the hospitals, like large hospitals, they run their own trials. So yeah, in terms of list, I cannot give you a list. You need to search. There article list on. But then you just need to try to get that experience somehow, somewhere. I think that's gonna let you kind of let you in the big CRO world.
Okay, so there is another question from Tanmay Walkar. Which courses is the best to do best job in CRO? Means specific courses are there that job related.
Yeah. Sorry, I won't be able to answer this question because
Okay.
in CRO, like the guys I work with, so my the guy who is looking after all the Europe, yeah, he is the kind of VP, vice president. He is a BSc. Okay. There are lots of PhDs. There are lots of doctors, medical doctors working under him. In my team, there's somebody who has absolutely no research background. He just stumble upon it, have done it. Yeah, I'm the one who has masters. There's a PhD guy. He and me are at the same level. So it is varied. There's no course which will guarantee you in there. So yeah, I think the catch the industry wants a little bit of experience. So don't just focus on, and as I said, there are biomedical people, biochemistry people, any stream you take, everybody works in clinical trials. So there is no kind of specialist. I wouldn't vouch by a specialist course.
Okay. Oh, okay. And there is any question from students? Okay. Sir, okay. There is some time for vote of thanks. Hello, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, continue.
Okay. I deem it is a great honor and privilege to purpose the vote of thanks on this memorable occasion. First and foremost, I'd like to thank the ultimately God for making today's occasion a resounding success. Our sincere thanks to the chief guest, Ashish Malwade, for gracing today's webinar. Thank you, sir, for your interesting and valuable information. We would like to extend our thanks to Dr. Kulkarni, sir, Dr. Shiraskar, sir, Professor Hemant Mansude, sir, Professor Jyoti Zavde, ma'am, for their valuable contribution, guidance, and encouragement in all our efforts. Lastly, we express our sincere thanks to the all teaching faculty and non-teaching faculty of the Dattakala Institute. Last but not least, I like to thank my all students for your cooperation and making this webinar a resounding success. So I will declare that the session will be the end. Thank you all. Okay.
Announcement.
Okay. So 1 minute. There is one announcement. Hello. Okay. There is
Yes, madam,
one
continue.
announcement. There is one announcement that on next Saturday there is a webinar by Anshuman Ambike on the topic intellectual property right and generic pharmaceutical industry at 10 a.m. Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you, Ashish sir.
Yes.
Thank you, all of
Thank you, Ashish. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Chalo, great session.
Bye.
Thank you, sir. Shall
Chalo,
we end?
chalo. Thank you. Thank you, Ashish.
Okay. Leave the session.